Hey guys, welcome back to another Pajero episode. Today I'm going to show you how to do a basic service on your car by changing out the oil and all the oil filters, and also explaining a little bit more about what oil you should use for your car. So without further ado, let's get into it. So let me show you what we're going to be changing out for this service and also what you need. So let's start off with a bucket. All right, so a funnel and a bucket to catch your oil. Now, this car is a 3.2 diesel, so it almost takes 10 liters of oil. So make sure your bucket is big enough for your oil. Obviously your oil, air filter, cabin filter, fuel filter, oil filter, and an engine flush. All right, so that's what we're going to be doing today. Now, brand wise, as you can see, there's all different types of brands. I just went for a decent brand that is also very affordable, and this is also old service parts that I had, and then only a few weeks ago I got some other bits and pieces, so it doesn't really matter what you grab as long as it's a decent quality. All right. Most important part is the oil. So when it comes to oil, it's very important to select the right type of oil. Okay, so what you need to consider is whether you have a DPF vehicle or non-DPF. So for the Generation 4 Pajero, there's 4 versions: the NS, the NT, the NW, and the NX. All right, so the first and the last one, the NS and the NX, does have a DPF. It's a diesel particulate filter fitted to the exhaust system. So it's very important to use the right oil just so it doesn't clog up over time and have DPF issues, that sort of thing. You'll also see whether it's DPF compatible or not. So mostly the full synthetic oils will be DPF compatible. Just check on the bottle. Otherwise, the semi-synthetic will be fine for diesels that doesn't have a DPF. So the NT and the NW. I've got an NW, so the semi-synthetic is good. For diesel, I would probably use 10W or 15W because it needs a slightly thicker oil for the engine. If you have a petrol Pajero, I would go the 5W, which is thin and good enough. The last thing, intervals. So how often should you change your oil? I do every 10,000 kilometers. Normal driving car doesn't work as hard. However, we are now traveling Australia. As you can see, we're here in the bush. All right, so we're going to be changing out the oil every 7,500 kilometers because the car does work a bit harder towing the caravan. So it's very important to make sure you maintain the car just so everything runs smoothly. All right, so that's for the oil. Let's now get into the service. Right, so first up, what we're going to do is the oil change. Now, first thing we're going to do is put in the engine oil flush. Now, you don't have to do this with every single service. Just do it once in a while just to make sure the engine does get a proper flush and gets rid of all the nasties in the engine. All right, so when you're going to change your oil, make sure the car is nice and warm already, just so everything can drain out smoothly. And for the oil flush, what you need to do is basically chuck it into your oil and then let the car run for 10-15 minutes just so everything cycles through, and then you can drain it out. All right, let's let it idle for about 10 minutes. Perfect. So once the engine flush has run through, now you want to grab your bucket because we're now going to drain the oil. So grab a 17. Obviously take off your factory bash plates to have access to the bolt. Luckily with our bash plates, this is something new that we are trying today. So it has a hole where you can literally just poke it through and undo the nut. So you don't have to take the bash plates off. How good. Anyway, let's get under there. Alrighty, so what I've done here is I've just moved the oil bucket just so it's underneath the filter. Now again, the good thing about this new design of bash plates is the 2 vents there. Now it's not there just for looks. It's actually for the oil to drain through it. All right, so we're just going to unscrew the oil filter and it's just going to drain through those slots into this bucket. Before I forget, you need to use this tool over here just to get it off. This is by far the best tool to use, so definitely use this one, and then it just binds up and then just unscrews it. So happy days. Perfect, so the oil filter is now off, guys. Now what I would recommend is buying a oil filter that has a drain hole down the bottom. So before you take the actual filter off, you can just undo this bolt and let it drain out. In that way, it doesn't make such a big mess. All right, so this one is from Supercheap Auto, but there's plenty out there with this feature. But yeah, great feature to have. Otherwise, with the other ones, just stab a hole into the bottom and it will drain out as well. Also, just quickly before you screw it on, make sure you lubricate the seal over here. So there's a few reasons to do that. First up is to avoid cracks over time, and to make sure it seals properly. And also next time you change out the filter, once it's lubed up, it will have a little bit of lubrication to get it off easy again, instead of just it sucking onto it and the seal breaking over time. So yes, lube it up just with a little bit of oil. Let's screw it on. So now we can put in the new oil. So just grab your funnel, place it in like that. It does have a seal on this one, so just make sure to get the seal off first to open up the lid, and then once that is open, you just whack this one on. Just makes it nice and easy. So yes, the 3.2 diesel does take 9.8 liters. This is a 10-liter bottle, so a little bit of oil won't make a difference, and that includes the oil filter as well. So yes, we're just gonna chuck this whole bottle in. Too easy, guys. So that was the oil all done, and the old oil is just back into the bottle. So we're taking all our waste with us. So remember, wherever you are, whatever you do, leave it clean, take all your mess with you, all your rubbish with you, and leaves the place better than it is. All right, so next up, we'll move on to the fuel filter. So for the fuel filter, guys, best thing to do is just to undo the 2 bolts at the top, and then you have more access to it, right? Get gloves so you can have good grip, or just buy a smaller one of these just so you can grip it as well and get it off. That would probably be the easiest. Otherwise, you can take the hard way like I did. So grab the bottom of it, grab the top, and then you gotta squeeze for your life, all right? Boom, and then it breaks the seal at the top, and then you can undo it, all right? So don't undo it too much. You wanna keep it straight just so the fuel doesn't, dribble onto your engine, because that can be a hazard, all right? The other thing I wanted to show you is the bottom. So the bottom is the water sensor, all right? So if there's any water in your fuel, that's gonna bring up a light on your dash, and that's where you should just stop immediately before it reaches your injectors. And that's why I have a secondary fuel filter with a water separator, so it catches that water. So that's just a bit of extra information. Anyway, let me take this off. Right, so unfortunately the fuel that's in here, you need to chuck away, all right? Because you can't undo the bottom, otherwise it's just gonna leak out. And you also can't put this onto or into the other filter because it's also a hole at the bottom. Alright, so I'm just going to chuck it with my old oil. There you go. So we're just going to reuse the old O-ring for the seal because that's all good and it's already lubricated. So that will create a nice seal on the new filter as well. And make sure this one is nice and tight. Perfect. Now we can screw it back on. So I'm just going to lubricate the top seal as well, just to make sure I get it off easier the next time because it was quite on there. All right, so what you're gonna do is just screw it back on. Just hand tight again, which is fine. Perfect, not too tight, just so it seals nicely. There you go. That can go back in place. And then just remember to put that plug back in, just so the water sensor is active. You'll hear a click, and then just put that back in place. And that's it. And then finally, guys, just to finish it off, remember this filter is now empty, so your car is not going to start. So what you want to do is just press this button on top to prime the filter. So you basically just want to press it till the filter fills up. And then once it's really hard to press, that's when you know it is good to go. But yes, if your car still struggles, just press it until it sort of stops. There you go. So that's really hard, so that should now be full of diesel, ready to go. Awesome, so second last thing to do is your air filter. So grab a number 10 socket, just undo the top one here. Perfect, that should be enough, just so it can basically go over it. There you go. So there's 3 clips, 1, 2, and 3. And it will come straight out, there you go. Perfect, and there's your air filter. So you don't really have to change them if it still looks okay. So what you can do is basically just take a blower, you can blow it out, you can give it a smack with your hand just so you get rid of all the dust. But if it's still looking good, guys, you can reuse it. But obviously if it's black, then definitely want to reuse it. So I'll just show you what the new air filter looks like just to compare with. So there you go. So it's definitely brand new, as you can see, but the filter that I currently have is not too bad. All right, so you don't really have to replace it. So I'm just going to keep it in my boot, but this is just to show you how to replace it. All right, so to put this thing back on, you basically just got to try and start at the back, just so it sort of flips in. There you go, something like that. All right, let's try again. So there's 2 holes here. So what you want to do is just make sure it lines up, and you just got to give it a little push. There we go, that's a clip in. So 1, 2, 3, put that one back on, and then tighten it up, and it's all good to go. And also, if there's any leaves and whatnot in here, make sure to get it out just so it doesn't go through your intake system. Last but not least, guys, is the cabin filter. All right, so sort of the same deal as the air filter, just change it if it's very dirty. All right, so what you want to do, there's 2 clips holding this cabin in place. The other thing is there's a little shocky as well. So just make sure to unclip the shocky just so it's out of the way and the cabin can drop. All right, so what you want to do is push inwards. There you go. Perfect. And now should clear your cabin before you do this actually. All right, so it's not a big mess, but anyway, there you go. Luckily I've done this a few times, so everything is still intact. Alrighty, so essentially cabin filter is just in here. So as you can see, there's just 2 screws. What you want to do is just use a screwdriver and undo those screws, and it will come straight out. Okay, so as you guys can see, it's absolutely filthy. So it does have leaves and heaps of buildup of dust over the years. So I'm actually unsure when this one has been changed, but it's definitely important to be changed. So this is the new one. As you can see, it looks a lot cleaner. And this is also basically your aircon filter, right? So this one is more important than the air filter, I would say, because this is the type of air that you're going to be breathing in. So if you have a dirty filter, you're going to have dirty air. Whereas if you have a good, nice one that's clean, you're going to have nice, fresh air, which is good for your health. All right, so we're going to change that now. Okay, so just to show you guys how it goes in, whether it's this way around or the other way, it's this way. So it will say here airflow, so just make sure that's the correct side up. So essentially the screw is top right and bottom left, and then it goes in perfectly. And there you go, guys, that's how you exchange the cabin filter. I'd probably say as well, once you get rid of the old one, just put your hand in there, and if there's any leaves and that sort of stuff in there, just grab it out as well and try and clean it up as best as you can in there before you put the new one back in. But yeah, that was the cabin filter. Awesome, guys, so finally we are now done with the basic service of the Pajero. So if you have any questions, make sure to drop it down below. And as the last thing to do, start up your car, let it idle like it is at the moment, check your filters, check your sun plugs, make sure there's no leaks, and if you have to tighten something up. Apart from that, make sure to write down in your service booklet when you service the car, because you're going to forget. And also, if you're going to sell the car in the future, the new owner wants to see that you service your vehicle, and you'll probably get more for the car anyway. So yes, hopefully you guys are all sorted now. Have fun out there, and thanks for watching this episode. Make sure to like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace out.